everyone, I'm Oprah Francis, the author and illustrator behind The Adventures of Marvin the Mischievous Manicou, and thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Marvin and Friends Craft and Storytime series. So it's Marvin Mania here at the St. Helena Public Library, and today we are going to be making Quasi the Quick Quenk. So Quasi here is actually one of the animals from The Adventures of Marvin the Mischievous Manicou Forest Wars. So here we have Quasi the Quick Quenk. So Quasi is actually an animal found in the forests of Trinidad and Tobago, and one thing many persons don't know about Quasi is that he is extremely quick on his feet, and that actually causes some tension in the forest when Avinash challenges Quasi to a race in The Adventures of Marvin the Mischievous Manicou Forest Wars. So to find out what happens in the race, you could get your copy of this book, which is out now. But for now, let's go ahead with the craft. So let's see how we're going to make Quasi. So Quasi has a very dark gray color, as you can see. He has a bit of a pointed snout right here. He has gray ears with pink to the center. So now that we have the details, let's make Quasi. First things first, we need to have our material prepped and ready. So we have some dark gray bristol board right here that we'll be using for his fur to cover his body. And you could use bristol board, you could use regular paper, or simply white paper and use a gray crayon or color pencil and color it in as you see fit. We'll be using some pink material here that will form his inner ear. And we have googly eyes for his face. And googly eyes are available at any local stationery store, craft store, or if you don't get a chance to get your googly eyes, you can simply draw or print your own eyes on regular paper and just cut out these circles and use those for the craft. And mainly, for the base of his body, we have a very small water bottle. So remember, Quasi has a bit of a rounded body here and it comes down to a snout, a pointed tip for his nose. So this is what we will be using to base Quasi's body. And of course, we must have our trusted tools to help us with the craft. So we have our scissors for cutting. We have our ruler for measuring and to keep everything straight. We have a marker to draw some details, so we'll use the marker for his face and his snout as well. And of course, our trusted glue gun. So if you have a glue gun, that's great, but you could also use regular liquid glue to really hold the materials in place. So now that we have all of our material ready, let's get started. So we have our water bottle here. That will be the base of his body. So what we need to do firstly would be to cover the water bottle with his gray fur. So what we are going to do, we're going to take our gray material and we're just basically going to get an average of how much we would like to cover and put a mark right here on the material with our pencil. So about this much should be good in height. So let's just put a little mark right there, right? And let's just get an average of how much we would take to wrap around. So probably about here should do. Right, so we have those two marks. So we put our bottle to the side. So we have our two marks here. So we're just going to draw a straight line across to guide us when we're cutting. So straight line across like this. And we're drawing a straight line like this, right? So now let's take our scissors and cut our shape. Right, so just cut straight down, and now we're cutting straight across. So we're just following the line we drew with our pencil, right? So now we have his fur to cover his body. And what we could do while we're here would be to draw his ears. So Quasi has leaf-like ears, so we could draw a leaf-like shape on the Bristol board, peak to the top just like a leaf. So we're going to draw 2 of those shapes. Right, so we could just estimate the size a bit. What tends to work well for me, I would usually draw my first shape with the pencil just so I could get it right. Because if you don't get the shape right, you could always erase, start over again, or just draw a new outline. And once I'm sure I got the shape right that I want, I would use the black marker to draw an outline along the pencil mark I made. Right, so we're just drawing a nice thick black line around. And the thick line works well because it helps you cut. Right, so we have our 2 ears. So what I like to do, I would usually just cut loosely around the shape, just to get rid of the excess material to make cutting a bit easier. So we could put this excess material to the side for now. Right, so we have ear number 1, because he has a pair of ears. So this is the first ear we're cutting here. Alright, so just take our time, curve around the lines. Be careful with your fingers as well. And we put the excess material to the side. So we have his ears. And also, we need to cut 4 strips that we will be using for his feet. Draw a little squared shape right here. And now we're going to cut. Right? And we're just going to get 4 strips. That we will be using for his feet later on. So each strip could probably be about 3 centimeters. So you could always measure that roughly before you cut as well. I'll just estimate it right here. So all about 3 centimeters. And we're just going to cut these out. So we have his 4 legs cut out. And now we will also cut his inner ear using the pink material I mentioned earlier. So the same shape we drew earlier, we are going to cut a smaller version of that shape that will form the inner ear right here. So now, let's just use this as a guide, and we're just going to draw 2 smaller leaf-like shapes. All right, and now we're going to cut it out. We're going to cut them both. All right, so let's take our time, cut along the line. Be careful with your fingers and your fingernails. And this is ear number 2. So now, let's start sticking everything together. So firstly, the rectangular shape we cut earlier, we're going to stick that one to the bottle. And we're going to put 1 strip of glue running right here. So that will be the base to stick it on. Right, so let's take our glue gun and 1 nice strip of glue running across. Now let's just fasten this here. Apply a bit of pressure Right, so be careful around the glue because that's a bit warm right now, so we don't want any getting on our fingertips. Alright, so just apply a little pressure there. And we're going to wrap the material right around the bottle. And we're going to apply a bit more glue. One last bit right here, just to hold it in place. So we just give enough time for this to hold in place, and I think we're good there. So now let's move on to his ears. So we have the pink, the smaller pink bit here, and we have the larger gray bit. So we're going to stick the pink over the gray. So you'll actually see he has an inner ear and an outer ear. So let's stick. We're going to line the pink to the base of the gray. Right, just apply a bit of pressure, just like this. And now we have his two ears. So you see we have the gray outline and we have the pink to the middle. So the strips we cut earlier, we're just going to wrap those around into these little cylinder shapes. And then we're going to stick it together. Right, so just a little bit of glue here. All right, this should be good. Now we wrap it in. All right, just apply a bit of pressure with your fingertips. And now we have 4 legs. Let's put everything together onto his body. So first, let's start with his eyes. So we have our googly eyes right here. So we're just going to put 2 dots. When you're putting the glue, try not to put too much because you don't want any oozing out to the side. So just a drip on each side. Take out the excess glue. So Quasi has eyes. And now we're going to attach his feet. So what we're going to do, we're just going to put glue along the rim of each, and then we're going to stick to the base like this. For this bit may take some time just to ensure that it holds in place because of the curvature, because the bottle is curved. So you may just have to apply some pressure and hold the feet in place for a bit longer than a few seconds, probably a half a minute, 1 minute or so, just to get them in place. So now, let's apply the ears. So one thing you may notice, because the bottle is so round and because the bottom of the ear is flat, it may be very difficult to fasten the ear onto his body. So I have a little trick for you. The excess material we had earlier, we're just going to cut 2 very small rectangular shapes. Could let them be a bit fat. Right, so we're just going to cut across here. So we put this to the side. So we have 2 short rectangular shapes. So we're going to fold each of them in half, and we're just going to apply the glue to one half and stick it behind the ear. And apply a bit of pressure. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to slide each to the inside like this. So we have ear number 1 and ear number 2. So now we're going to create Quasi's snout. Using the excess material we had from earlier, some pink and some gray, we're going to use the cork from the bottle to draw an outline, a circular outline on the pink material. Just like this. And we're going to cut around. So taking our time, be careful with your fingers. Don't carry your fingers too close to the blade of the scissors. Right, so we're getting this right around. Perfect. We have the circle right here. And we just want to cut a thin strip that we will use to wrap around. Right, so using the gray. Right. So we just need one strip that could wrap around. So let's put aside our excess material. And before we stick his snout, let's give him some nostrils. So we're drawing 2 oval-shaped dots like this. Right. So now we're going to stick this circular shape onto the bottle. We're going to apply some glue around the nozzle. Right, so we just have to hold this bit in place for a little bit, probably about same 30 seconds to a minute or so, just to ensure that the glue holds in place and dries properly before we move our fingertips. And that's it. We have Quasi the Quick Quenk. Doesn't he look handsome? So thank you for joining me for another episode of the Marvin and Friends Craft and Storytime series at the Nallis Library. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of Marvin Mania at St. Helena Public Library, but you can learn more about Marvin and his furry little friends in the forest by getting your copy of The Adventures of Marvin the Mischievous Manicou. The full book series is out now. And follow Marvin on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, as well as Nallis Library, for the next episode of the Marvin and Friends Craft and Storytime series.